Welcome to Political Justice. It's yet another Saturday afternoon, and we're here with you once more to analyze the topical issues in Ghana. And I'm here to do so with my panelist, Dr. Nee Okine, Assistant Professor, Actuarial Science at Appalachian State University. And then I have Dr. Zita Seshi, who is a sociologist out in Canada. So once again, panelists, it's another exciting Saturday afternoon. And then we're here to do justice to the topical issues in Ghana. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So yeah, so you guys are welcome as usual.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So today we don't have our producer with us, so I'm having to play a dual role of multitasking of putting videos up and controlling the various components of the show and having to host as well. But anyways, so I mean today the main issues that we're going to discuss is the Ejuso by-election. I mean that election has been riddled with a lot of incidents. Besides the political aspects of the election itself, there are so many things that happened that I mean we can characterize as not bordering well for our democracy, which we will discuss. And then we'll proceed to talk about the role of celebrities in our elections, particularly. I mean, and I'm thinking of us looking at this in two dimensions. So, one, I have observed a trend where certain public figures that were critical of JDM are now making an about 10. And this is not only limited to celebrities, but also even some individuals that were associated with the current government. And there are certain videos that I will play, and those would introduce the discussion for us to delve into. And so these are going to be our main issues, because I mean the elections and its aftermath and the issues that arose are very loaded, and so that can occupy us the entire time. But yeah, so viewers, I hope you will join us in the conversation with your comments, and then we would read some of them. And if there are questions that you have or issues that you want us to address, you put them in the comments, and then we'll bring them up and talk about them as well. So I want us to begin with the elections. Let's look at it from more of the political point of view. And I think I have the images of the polling that was done before and the outcome of the election as well, the election results. And so maybe maybe you can take it first. I would show this my screen. I would show my screen with that displays the election results, and then we can have a conversation about the politics around the election itself, right? So I hope you can see me, right? Um, this was the polling, and I mean, it seemed like they were spot on with in terms of the polling and the actual outcome of the elections. Are we improving in analyzing or predicting future election results in Ghana?
Yeah, I think they did a very good job when it comes to the way they got close to the polling or the actual numbers. And I just want to give say tell them congratulate them on the good job they've been doing. And that's not the first time. I think they've been doing this for a while now. So I'm very excited that the numbers were actually close. So at least we have somebody we can trust in the Ghanaian political uh, realms when it comes to polling. So I want to say a great job to the global info analytics people, and I feel the reason why MPP wanted to kind of impugn the polls there was a whole talk on social media, MPP trying to tell them they didn't get it right, and I'm like, really? This is as good as it can get, right? I feel what they wanted to do there was to impugn their credibility, so that I kind of people wouldn't pay too much attention to them. But we know all the polls coming out, and all the polls they've been bringing out is trying to tell us that MPP is going to lose, and I think what they want to do is say, okay, you got it wrong here, so it means that you may get it wrong in the future. So I believe that's what they were trying to do. But the poll numbers were good. The statistics, whatever they did was right. So I want to say a big congratulations to them, and it looks like they got it right this time. Yeah.
Okay. So Zita, the voter turnout was pretty low compared to other elections. I think the voter turnout was about, and I am kind of developing a cold here. So I think the voter turnout was about 40 something percent. And is this sort of a high bingo for doom for the NPP in the upcoming election? Because Ejoso is considered as a stronghold, one of the centers of power of the NDC. And to for the election to be that competitive, I mean, we understand the fact that the independent candidate who ran against the MPP candidate was himself an MPP individual, even though he went independent. So we may not want to read too much meaning into the outcome of the election, because at the end of the day, he would have, I don't know who he would have caucused with if he ended up in parliament. But my concern here is the voter turnout. It was pretty low. Um, what are the political implications of such a low voter turnout in a stronghold?
I mean, yeah, you're getting a cold. Same here. I don't know. My energy has just been down. I don't know if the weather changed for those of us in North America. It's just a bit. So take it easy on yourself if you don't feel too well and you make a few technical hitches here and there. But this it just so poll is like forecasting what will happen in the December elections. I'm sorry to be the prophetess of doom, but it's a forecast of what is likely to happen in the December elections. The MPP have lost favor in the sight of their own, stronghold and their own people, and the turnout in itself is an indication. Somebody who came out of the MPP being an independent candidate, if that person could pull over 40%, I mean, that to me is problematic. If I was MPP, I would be extremely worried. I would be extremely worried. So, to me, this is just a forecast of what will happen, and in terms of the political implications, it's an indication that the MPP have not done well to please its own people and their stronghold. They've not done well in their tenure in government, and these are the implications. And if you watch the news reportage on this whole, just so you see the sentiment, you see the anger in the people, and they even typically they're even opposing vote buying, which I know we are going to get into by members of the MPP. So in terms of the political implications, they've lost favor, they've not done well, and this is just a microcosm of what will happen in the broader elections. I believe, I'm not a pollster, but I believe that the MPP should be extremely worried, because in the first time in Ghana's history, they are not just going to lose, they will lose by a landslide.
Okay.
and
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to touch on that as well, I mean,
yeah, and if you compare this results, the gap here is around just 12%, close to 10%, right? If you compare this result to what happened in 2020, the difference between the NPP and the next person was around 65%, but now it's close to 10%. So that should get them worried, and I'm excited that this is the case, but it should get MPP worried. This is your stronghold, and you're performing this poorly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
But
mean, yes,
but you need to realize that it's the gap is 10% because it was MPP running against the former MPP. So imagine if they were running against other people. And I like the fact that the NDC decided not to even participate, because that is the stronghold. So that is the issue we should take cognizance of, that the MPP kind of technically running against itself, but in a different side as an independent candidate. Hence the very small margins, because it just is strongly, it is their stronghold. And
yeah,
so winning by 60% against other opponents should not be surprising. But because this is an in-house tussle and a lack of peace and harmony within the MPP, we see this extremely tight a win of 10%.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my interpretation of it is from the voter turnout. Because if the NDC was to fill the candidate, it's not likely that the candidate. I mean, usually when you're dealing with these types of strongholds, the best that as an opposition party you can wish for is for a low voter turnout. And we have seen so many videos of people expressing dissatisfaction for the MPP, and it became evident in the number of people who turn out to vote. Now, there's this idea that historically, um, by elections have always had low voter turnouts, but compared to other by elections, even this one has a lower voter turnout compared to previous by elections. So I don't know how, for instance, the opposition NDC can exploit this situation, but I would say it foreshadows what is going to probably come in the main election for the MPP. Um,
I
yeah,
think that in terms of how the NDC can exploit that, I like, and my colleague Dr. Nee always used the side chick and the wife analogy all the time. Like Akuko Sacha Kromakra Enyenefe. I do not think that the NDC needs to exploit this further, the track record of the MPP has spoken for itself. In your stronghold, if people are not coming out to vote, it's an indication that you've lost favor. It's an indication that you failed. It's an indication that you have not done the best that you could based on the promises that you gave. So I do not think that the NDC needs to focus on trying to entice their side chick to, lay in bed with them at this point. The track record of the MPP is clear. This is an indication they've lost favors. The NDC needs to just focus on building the momentum at the grassroots, and more importantly, swinging those who are often in between, the floating voters who are in between. They need to focus on that base, because if they are losing at their stronghold, you don't need to do anything. The side chicks are already, they don't need to do anything. It's clear. It's clear that they are not happy with the MPP. The MPP have failed massively in their own stronghold. And so the NDC should focus on canvassing in other groups and not necessarily do much. Energy should be spread. Don't get me wrong. Their energy should be spread. But if they want to concentrate their effort, it should be with the regions that are more of the swing, the floating votes, those who swing either way, depending on how things are in the country. That is where they need to intensify their efforts. But with the Ejiso outcome, it will go. The MPP has failed, so we shouldn't be too worried about that, from my perspective.
Okay. And I have a theory when it comes to fielding candidates in your opponent's stronghold. I believe that if you field a strong candidate in your opponent's stronghold, even though it's rest assured that that candidate is not going to win the seat, but they can increase the voter margin for your presidential candidate. And I sometimes find people interpreting election results in Ghana by regions and all that, which I feel, well, maybe you just want to have a look at it, but how much you won in a region doesn't really, whether you won a region or not, right? It's about how much you won the region by. So if you can increase the number of votes, even in losing that region, you are very likely to close the gap or even potentially win the election. And we don't usually, and particularly the NDC, I keep saying this, the NDC doesn't win elections in Ghana by a lot of votes. And I think the most competitive election was the 2008 election. 2012 was a whole different dynamic. So if you want to analyze history and going into this election, if the NDC wants to analyze the election, they have to use the 2008 election as a benchmark. And the NDC won that election by about 40,000 votes. So if you don't galvanize every little vote possible, it can easily slip away from you by the fact that you win election by such a small margin. So there shouldn't be any space for complacency, and in local parlance, we always say NDC shouldn't play loose in any circumstance, right? And that begins from registering to vote all the way to the day of the elections. But let's then move into the issue of allegations of vote buying, and we'll start with the candidate. This is prior or during the election.
Before the mantam chichaba chichiska. I was a whole sitting government MPP. Now me who's do me one man. Me no more challenge. Now just some person when you buy some chichiska. And we got some abano. And we got sir, an independent candidate. And a whole MPP party contest. Not just a MPP for Baji Chesica and San Omatimia win it. And we got a trust MPP for women at the Papa Bia Jinaswa. Omakacho will for sir or say Trobama. No man has on Bachis Canoma win it. And we got Utumisa Ghana in the future. under this government. Any future, you will future. Omega say Yahweh, ewa business here, Yahweh, wa just one. Enti mu fa no so na mo nto aban fama yi. Na so mo ni bibia aka. Na say to beat an independent candidate. Omo chese card ya. No go say aban no me gbe ase.
Okay. So yeah. So whose fault is this? I mean, there's always this, conversation about, is it the electorates that are demanding money from voters, or the voters are the ones that are, trying to use money to influence the vote? And is this peculiar to the MPP? Is it that?
I mean, let us be objective and honest. I think this is peculiar to all the political parties, where during elections there's some form of a barter trade. It is not always in the form of money. Sometimes it is, food products like rice, corn. In recent years, the MPP has made big investments like television. I mean, the MPP, they're not playing with the way they buy the votes, television and all these interesting stuff, bags of rice, not the small one. They're really recently on social media, I think it's somewhere in the northern region, they had huge bags of rice, and it was on social media. They were telling people to pick bags of rice for that. So from an objective standpoint, I would say that this is typical of Ghana's political terrain. However, what makes this problematic is the fact that they are doing it on the day of elections. Whilst the election is going on, you are canvassing the constituencies, and you are allegedly given money to buy the vote. But what to me was interesting is the fact that I feel even though some of the Ghanaian electorate might not be highly educated, I think they are discerning. People were calling it out. The reason why we got to know of this is because the electorates, the people in the constituency, were coming out to call it out and say, this is what they're doing. We would take the money, but we know where our vote is going. Of course, some people said, you give us the money, we'll vote for you. But I think that this ties into the broader issue of failed systems in Ghana and poverty in Ghana, where sometimes most of us are seeking to fulfill our immediate hunger and not focus on the long-term goals and the long-term development plan that a particular candidate or a particular government will have for the nation. So to be fair in our analysis, this is not just akin to the MPP. This has been part of Ghana's political terrain. What makes it interesting is that in the time of the MPP is that not only have they increased the items that they're willing to trade for votes, like giving out televisions, but they are also canvassing the streets during the election period and offering that incentive there. That to me is very bold. That to me is a blatant disrespect for our democracy and our democratic process, and should not be condoned in any form.
Yeah, and there's another video here that I would like to play this video, and then you come in. So the first one was the opponent complaining that the incumbent was sharing money to influence voters. Now there's an actual video of voters talking about having received money, and in some cases they took their phone numbers to send them money via mobile money. Let's have a look.
White, B8. Obisa about Otuaba my lawyer. No do the amount. Ikudi, I just mention. Otuaba we are, Otuma lawyer. Near Chodi, actual phone number. 7 momo. Me client ko on. So no Otuaba. Okwa no. I'm 20 the number. Say I'm sending momo. It will show you will vote. Now anybody know my show because they come on, what to be? Median
81, 32.
Say you got 2 about away. I don't see you got 3 hours. I was body card. I just had the card. Oh, what you have every day? Nobody has checked. No more going to be something about I also got yes, I get from your ID card. I did some of the card. I would I
Me bottom be there was say. Wa be me scan me to, wa me scan me to. That's why the man me to me ni ma. Wo me scan dia na to. E ba sa do me dia me twa ka se ma. Me pe dia me di na nko a. Do be me nko a. Dia to
Agenda se to abanze. Ya ti ko mi ya say. Obi ade 150 million. Obi ade 250 million. Akoto aba na do. So that is senior. It means to me put I say me to make sika san na me to make dem ato aba no. Se me nya sika ni bia me nto. Is aba no ko to ma no ogonya oba onye ade papa bia ma me nya fa so bia fiso. Na fa so me nya fiso asa me sika ni bia di.
Baka. Mpani ko di kaje. Tie wo tie en beje. Azani ato. So we pani na wo ko to delegate aba no. Wo ko ko sika bia na me ko aba na me. Wo smeje 5 million. Yes am vote me koko e bottom about saying
so come de me bre wo to ha. So dia ya chiche sika no ma me bia me so me so. Me bottom be there was say. Wa be me sika na to, wa me sika me to. That's why the man me to me ni ma. Wo me sika dia na to. E ba sa do me dia me twa ka se ma. Me pe dia me di na nko a. Do be me nko a. Dia to
agenda se to abanze. Ya ti ko mi ya say. Obi ade 150 million. Obi ade 250 million. Akoto aba na do. So that is senior. It means to me put I say me to make sika san na me to make dem ato aba no. Se me nya sika ni bia me nto. Is aba no ko to ma no ogonya oba onye ade papa bia ma me nya fa so bia fiso. Na fa so me nya fiso asa me sika ni bia di.
Baka. Mpani ko di kaje. Tie wo tie en beje. Azani ato. So we pani na wo ko to delegate aba no. Wo ko sika bia na me ko to aba na.
Muted.
You're
Okay.
on
So
mute.
yeah, I identified, three issues here. One is the fact that it seemed like politicians are willing to pay in exchange for votes. And I don't even know which one came first, whether it is their willingness to pay that came first, or voters haven't realized that these politicians, when voted into office, do not necessarily serve their interest. And so they would rather take money right away, something that can benefit them immediately, than vote for somebody who, in the long run, would not necessarily serve their interest. Now, there's a third issue where some of these electors are making allegations that some senior persons, perhaps delegates or elders in the communities, have taken money. And so it's also within their right to take money to vote. So maybe all these issues are interconnected in a very complex way, but how do you see it?
Yeah, for me, I'm really, really concerned about the monetization of our elections. And we've seen this over and over again during the primaries, MPP primaries, and even the NDC primaries. We saw a lot of vote buying. Witnessed a lot. The delegates getting money, sometimes from 5,000 to 15,000 cedis to just to vote. And if the regular citizens are seeing this on TV, they are seeing these videos that people are actually paying this much, what do you expect them to do? And it's like none of our systems, none of our the police is not really doing anything about it. The courts not doing anything about it. And this is happening under a president who is supposed to be a lawyer, and there's nothing coming from that side. Um, we really, really need our systems to step up. If we don't, it means that if the trend continues, I don't know what will happen to our democracy we are trying to practice, right? Because at the end of the day, we need our citizens to vote on policies, to vote on personalities, to vote on issues. But here's a situation where it's just about who can steal enough money, stack it somewhere, hold it somewhere, then during elections go out and hand out some little money here and there and get people to vote for you. So for me, it's really concerning. Um, and I feel there has to be serious discussions around this. We need to do better as a people.
Well, I mean, Zita, do you have anything more to add on this particular issue? You know,
I mean, I do understand Nee's sentiment that it is concerning, but again, I always tie this issue to our culture. We have a gift giving culture. Every system will thrive within a particular culture. So we are in a culture where the concept or the element of gift giving is quite common in our cultural practice, where you go to somebody's home, you offer something, and that like that. So for me, I always tie this monetization of the politics or vote buying in Africa, in Ghana and other African countries, to our unique culture of gift giving. Here, you in North America, you don't do that. People will serve you, and you can't. With the exception of when you go to a restaurant to eat, then you can tip and all that. But in our daily encounter, you don't tip people for doing their work. You don't say take this for lunch. The gift giving is not part. So for me, I always tie it to our unique culture and the infiltration of the European system of democracy that we are currently practicing, and how that has in itself created this unique concept of always buying votes and stuff like that. So I do side with me. It is quite problematic, but it has been part of our culture, be it as Agana is trying to say, be it if it is the electors demanding, or the politicians or the political people who are standing trying to buy the vote. Is I think is dualistic. Both exist. It's like demand exists, supply exists because of demand, right? And so politicians understand that, and I like this unique video that we posted on our platform, where I think Leonard colleague was breaking it down on how this whole thing works, how this machinery works. Because where are we expecting politicians to make donations when they go to funerals, pay school fees? People will come to your house. You are the member of parliament, you are the assemblyman, pay the tuition. Oh, my child cannot go to school, I need some money. Where are we expecting for them to get this money from? So electorates make these demands on the politicians, and the politicians, to a large extent, capitalize on that, because they understand that when they get into power, it's winner grabs all. It's winner grabs all, and they are going to get whatever money they give back. So it does not exist in a vacuum. It is complex, and both work together. But I think it ultimately ties back into the Ghanaian culture, African culture of gift giving, where gift giving is part of our culture. And so in a country that has been colonized, and a foreign political system like democracy has been introduced to us, our aspect of our culture will find a way to thrive in that. Again, it's a threat to our democracy. Again, it shouldn't be happening. But like I said, when systems fail and there's pervasive poverty, people can only seek to fill their stomach right now, and not focus on the long-term benefits and the long-term development of Ghana.
okay. Look, I think this idea of our culture, and it's been sort of uh, the basis, or it's giving people the convenience to be corrupt. I don't necessarily agree with that, because the thing is, if you go to most indigenous societies or even our traditional homes, people carry themselves with utmost integrity. So the culture of gift giving can exist, and in the midst of that, we can identify practices of handing stuff to people, which we can interpret as, or we can all make a genuine assessment and see that this is meant to influence. So, especially when it comes to certain official functions, we should be able to redesign issues related to what gift one can accept when they are a public official. Um, and then we'll go to that video where somebody was captured giving electoral officers something that they later on interpreted as a gift. So I think people are using our spirit of hospitality or our traditional way of communal coexistence where we share stuff with each other as a basis or something to cover up their evil deeds. And sometimes it sounds like a very convenient excuse, but I don't think that the we should muddle the issue with our traditional upbringing of sharing things that we have with people, or and even here people do it in America and other places. When you go to visit somebody, typically you would have a gift with you. So I don't think the culture of gift giving is not uniquely African. It's in most cultures, but they decide to deliberately draw a line between when it becomes a gift and when it can be interpreted as being used to influence somebody. And so we are practicing a democracy. And I think the benefit of a democracy is that it is an ongoing process. We refine it as we go. We should be willing to change certain things the moment we begin, we feel that it's not really serving the interest or it's not making the system that we say we are practicing robust. And it's that resistance to change that is now become a problem. That we have identified the faults with the manner in which we practice democracy, but somehow we are unwilling to change it. We've adopted this idea of see no evil, speak no evil, and just let things slide and sweep them under the carpet as though they do not exist. And in my opinion, we all complain about these things. If you speak to politicians themselves, they complain about this as well. But the buck stops with them. They are the ones that make policy, and they have to make the policy change. Um, and that's my opinion about this. Yeah.
I do agree with you. I was providing a historical trajectory as to why we are here. But again, you mentioned about the Western world. Yes, they do it, but again, it's about independent systems. It's about independent systems. So if you have a sort of relationship with somebody and they invite you somewhere and you offer something, they make it known that this might influence their decisions, so they might not take it. So it's all about the independent system. The Western world will have been able to establish the independent systems that work to make sure to hold people accountable, but as Africans, we have not been able to. And even with the chieftaincy system, in the past, when you had an issue and you had to go see a king for him to mediate, even though he's mediating, you go with a goat, you go with a cow. So I'm trying to, or you go with a chicken. I'm trying to provide the historical trajectory and how this imposition of a Western ideology has now metamorphosed into something else that is hurting our, practice of democracy, because the West was able to design independent systems to be able to allow people function and regulate behaviors within that system. We have not been able to. So it's just to provide a broader understanding. We can talk about vote buying, but I believe that our viewers should understand the historical context and how this is playing out. And to, like, I agree with you, Agana. I mean, to a large extent, this is hurting our democracy, and we should be willing to change things. Sorry for jumping in.
No, I was gonna say actually this is also a corruption issue, right? Because these folks will get the money by some not right means, right? They'll hoard this money, the money meant to build our hospital, the roads, they will not use that for that. And then when it comes to election, go out there and give to people. What will happen is at the end of the day, even if it's their money, they'll go in and recoup the money. And that will be from corruption. So what I'm trying to say is we need our systems to at least get some scapegoats. Otherwise, it will be like nobody is doing anything. Okay, let's all get involved in it. The impunity will be too much, and that's not what we want if we want to go with this democracy thing. So I understand the culture aspect, but if we really want to do this democracy thing, we need our systems to be a little bit stronger than they are right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, so sometimes when we engage in these generalities and do not point out specific culprits, we can lose the argument. And for me, we have two political parties before us, the NDC and the MPP. And this incident happened in an election that the NDC didn't take part in. And so I think we have to bring the blame back and lay it where it belongs, particularly on the laps of the NPP. And even in the history of Ghana's elections, the introduction of money into politics, where did it all start from? Because I don't want to believe that, I mean, I was a kid then, 1992, 96, even 2000. I don't think there was much. There probably was some element of vote buying, maybe we weren't growing enough to really understand them as we do now. But I think this became endemic, or it took epidemic proportions leading up to the 2008 election, beginning with the way MPP folks carried themselves in government, as well as their primaries, both presidential and parliamentary. Now, I was doing my national service in Legon at the time when they had the primaries in 2007. And if you were on that campus, the open display of money, I mean, it was ridiculous. Now, even during the primaries, right, when the primaries was going on, this was a delegates conference. There was delegates that were assembled to elect the flag bearer. When the election was going on, they had to take a break. I think this election went all the way into about 2 a.m. the following morning, or even longer than that. There was a stalemate at some point because apparently when the delegates election was going on, these were just select number of delegates, and these were the MPP executives. Apparently, there was still lobbying going on, and there was an incident. Lord Comey had alleged that somebody was sharing money in the Congress while the voting was going on. You know, someone was physically handing money to delegates while and so they had to take a break. They took a break, and I read Arthur Kennedy's book, and apparently when they took the break, the party chairman, together with the president, had to convene all the candidates and bring everybody to order, and they went back and voting continued. So I would say the introduction of money, as we currently see it in our politics, started in that proportion from 2008, largely from MPP officials who were in government at the time. Of course, it was going to be fueled by the monies that they had made while in government. And I mean, and maybe we don't have time. I would have read excerpts from Arthur Kennedy's book, which is Chasing the Elephant into the Bush. And he puts this in his book about the fact that the ostentatious lifestyle of NDC chief executive, district chief executives, ministers, the primaries that took place, and the amount of money that candidates spent on those primaries were largely to blame for their loss of the election. And Ghanaians saw it. We had never seen money play a significant role in politics as it did at the time. And so I think if we want to trace this issue of vote buying, we can trace it right all the way right into the doorstep of the MPP, largely from the from events around 2008. I don't know if you guys have anything to share in that light. Maybe you guys, yeah, I mean, I don't know where you guys were in 2007 when we were living life after school in Legon on Legon campus. Yeah. I mean, Nee, I don't know if the nothing. You don't have anything to add.
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
I just feel right.
Hmm.
We just, as I said, we just need our system to be stronger
Yeah.
because I'm not trying to absolve MPP of blame here, but during NDC's primary, they also gave what they call transportation, right, to almost a lot of people, like 300,000 delegates or whatever. NPP during their primaries, we had reports. Baumia was giving around 500 cities. Ken was giving around 300 cities, and these are around 250,000 delegates, right? So if you do the math, that's a lot of money. But the thing is, and not just this big primaries, but all the by-elections we've seen, in this past years, they go there, give the money. My problem is there has to be some accountable. There has to be some kind of action from some of these authorities that we've put in place to make sure to make sure to guide our democracy in the right direction. They are not doing that, right? And I also feel some of this, some of the blame should be laid right in front of Akufado's office because you're the president. Certain things you have to set a tone, right? And he's never commented on an issue like this. None of the people responsible for this have not said anything, and we see it getting worse, and it's getting worse. And at the end of the day, they feel they are in power now, so they don't have to do anything. And this will come and probably go in that same direction. So what I'm trying to say is we need our system to work, right? And that's basically because the system will be like the referee. Will not have anybody in the game, and that's what we need. Somebody that could, okay, when it gets too bad, or you call it out, or you try to, let people know certain things we will not tolerate, right? And it's not happening. And I feel that's where you know we should try and improve on.
Okay. Well, I think politicians in Ghana, especially the MPP, have defied the saying that what is many is incorruptible. Sharing money. The assumption would be that how could you possibly influence thousands of electorates with money? But somehow in Ghana, we are defying that logic. We are still able to influence thousands of electorates with
Because they are stealing a
materials.
lot of money. They are stealing a lot of money. Like
Yeah.
you hear some of the corruption going on in this government, you're like, wow. Like they don't steal in millions, they steal in billions. And it's like it's crazy. So they have all the money. They have all the money to do what they are doing now. And that's why we should all be angry because it leads to corruption. And that's the baseline.
Yeah. I mean, there's a video. I don't know if the guy is Nigerian, and I think Metro TV usually like to play it leading up to their programs. And he says I think he says there are three types of politicians: the ones that spend current money, and the ones that spend future money. The third characterization I don't remember, but it just kind of reminds me that again we can generalize and say, oh, all politicians steal money when they come to power, but what is the degree? And I think with respect to the NPP government, we can all agree that in fact they have spent posterity money.
Oh, they
Like,
they've
I don't know how far into the future that has gone, right?
they've really messed the country up. You see, we are not paying our external debts.
Yeah.
We've had haircuts. We Doomsor now is because of funding. That they are free SHS. They are not feeding the students because of funding. So the country needs the money, but it looks like the money will appear when there is election. We don't have money for all the important electricity and everything. But when it gets to election, we'll bring out the money we've hoarded and give to people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Because
mean, yeah.
it's a system. When you create a system that people are impoverished, that people are struggling, when you're hungry, your immediate goal is to fill your hunger. You can't think about posterity. You can't think about even tomorrow. So we need to understand it within the kind of system that is being run in Ghana and so
No, no.
many other
I mean, Bazita, when you say prosperity, I mean, and people are hungry, who are you referring to? Because we are talking about the politicians who are stealing into the future, right? They are not spending the existing money, but they are spending money that probably should have been made by the country, let's say even 50 years to come. So I don't know if you are speaking about it in the context of the people who want immediate benefits in order to vote, or you're talking about it in the context of.
I'm speaking of it in terms of the electorate, not the
Okay,
politicians.
yeah.
We, the citizens, can't think about future because we are very hungry. So I was tying it to what Nee is saying, that, and you were saying that they're stealing all these monies because they understand that if they are able to have that money, they will entice the person to give them opportunity to steal more. And so it's like a complex system that is working because people are frustrated. You heard from the some of the constituents in Eji. So you heard from them. They said, oh, our leaders have taken 2005. So if I don't get my share, I'm not voting because at the end of the day, I get nothing out of it. I get nothing. They don't bring no development. This is my time to cash in. So when I talk about people being hungry, I'm not referring to the politicians. I'm referring to the electorate because it's a dual system. It's an interconnected system that works together. And so, yes, the politicians are stealing and looting from our future, but even us, the citizens, we're so hungry we can't think about the future. Most Ghanaians, I mean, I'm not in Ghana now, but if we should have somebody go around Ghana to test the pulse of Ghana and ask people, how do you see Ghana in the next 10 years? People don't have the idea. We just want doom so to stuff. We are hungry. We want the economy to do that. And these things manifest based on what? Long term. It's not now. And so these people know the system they are in, and so they will loot to buy. They will loot to quench our hunger for the short period to get our vote, and that is the problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a good example is the Cecilia Dapa case. I think there's a letter out to the effect that the case is been discontinued. And the argument of the AG is that they are unable to establish any evidence that there was indeed money laundering. And the initial investigation was as to whether money was laundered, but there's no evidence. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think the idea of money laundering is that the crime is money laundering, right? You are trying to trace the source of the money, and that would lead you into money laundering. But to suggest that you can establish money laundering, have you investigated to find the source of the money? And the AG said when the lady made the original complaint, she had indicated the source of the money and that it was money given to her by her mom belonging to her late brother. I mean, this is some hell of a story. The lady had thousands or millions of dollars in cash, right? It's just insane.
I'm not cutting you here. See, the Bank of Ghana printed how much 60 billion Ghana cedis. 60 this 60 billion Ghana cedis. Like, you think all that money went to doing Bank of Ghana stuff? These people are the most corrupt. Like, I'm so surprised of like this MPP government. Their corruption is not the lower level corruption. It's like here, you know, you go to we had cases of that Ejapa deal. If you listen to News File, Bryce Simon explaining it, our gold royalties we earn $150 million a year. They were willing to mortgage that for a $500 million loan today. So it means that in 4 years, that loan will have been paid. And they were mortgaging it forever, like perpetuity. It's like, and the funny thing is, the people behind the company buying this gold royalty deal will not be made known. So basically, these folks will create a company and go into that. They will give government of Ghana $500 million to get $150 million a year in perpetuity. These people, man.
Yeah. And dollars, you can trace the money. I mean, a politician here in the US, I think about 100,000 or a little in excess of $100,000 was found. I mean, he had a pending case, and there was an FBI search of his home, and they found close to $100,000 in cash, and that became a big deal because nobody keeps that amount of money in their residence. Having that much money in cash, it raises a lot of red flags. And I think the dollar is said that you should be able to trace it and find out where that money came from. But if you, as an agent, say, well, I mean, you cannot follow the money, the trail of the money, and find its source and complete the case, then there's really nobody is used as an example. The next politician is going to do the same, and then we keep this vicious cycle going with no end in sight.
And for me, that's why that promise that Jomama is making, and I think Prof. Jane mentioned in her speech that they are going to prosecute. I feel that is a very important promise, because for somebody like me, I'm looking at this, I'm like, this cannot continue. Like, we have to stop somewhere. There has to be something done. So if you tell me this, I'm really, I mean, I want good economic policies. I want all that, but I really really also want to make sure none of these people did anything. I mean, I know some of them are corrupt, but there are levels of corruption. Some of this corruption is like, is hellish.
Yeah,
Like those stuff should be punished, so
yeah,
that we should all see that, okay, at least something is being done, right?
yeah. I mean, all criminal cases have different degrees, and there's different types of punishment depending on the nature of the crime. And so, political corruption has its levels as well. And again, we shouldn't fall for the or into the temptation of wrapping them all together in one class. There's a need for us to distinguish the level of corruption that has taken place in this government compared to other governments. And that is not an excuse. We're not excusing any other government, but we just have to, get the gradations right. Now, going into this question of penalizing people who are found to be corrupt. Now, there was a video of a Joy News reporter reporting the by-election that was going on, and right behind him, there was a certain member of parliament who had pulled an envelope from his pocket and deposited it on the table. Now, people saw it, and of course, the alarm bells went out. And the idea was that he was attempting to influence the electoral officers who were at the polling station at the time. Now, I saw another interview of him saying that that was not the case. In fact, he even denied that it was money in the envelope, and that his excuse was that why would he want to influence electoral officers in the full glare of the public? But that video, actually, the intention, it was sort of something that happened fortuitously. It wasn't the reporter didn't intend to capture that moment. He just happened to be in the background doing what he was doing, and he got captured by it. And so his argument that it happened in the full glare of the public with cameras around was not really exactly an excuse, because I saw the video, and I interpreted as he trying to be covert in his actions. But he issued a statement, and let's listen to the statement. And when we come back, we'll talk about it.
My attention that there is a video in circulation. Okay, so it's come to my attention that there is a video in circulation in which I was seen picking a white envelope from my back pocket and dropping it on a table in front of 2 Electoral Commission officers. I would like to state that on the 30th of April 2024, when the Jisu by-election was being held, I was selected by my political party, the New Patriotic Party, to supervise 5 polling stations in Fumesua. During my numerous rounds and upon reaching the Pentecost Church polling station, I interacted with the officers to find out if the election process at the polling station was coming up well and the numbers that had registered at that time. The officers indicated that the process was smooth, but at that time their food had not been delivered. I then asked them if they would be okay if I offered them lunch. They accepted it, and I put an envelope on the table in the full glare of all. I then left, granted an interview with Adom TV, and continued to the other polling stations. I must state unequivocally and in all honesty.
Go back. He said he went and asked them if they would want something for lunch.
Okay, so
at the time their lunch
so it says,
was not delivered.
during my numerous rounds and upon reaching the Pentecost Church polling station, I interacted with the officers to find out if the election process at the polling station was coming up well and the numbers that had registered at that time. The officers indicated that the process was smooth.
That have voted.
But at that time, their food had not been delivered.
So he's a caterer.
I then asked them if they would be okay if I offered them lunch. They accepted it, and I put an envelope on the table in the full glare of all. I then left, granted an interview at Dome TV, and continued to the other polling stations. I must state unequivocally and in all honesty that the gesture shown by me to the electoral officers was with good intent and not to bribe nor influence them to act contrary to their conscience, conviction, and character. The Electoral Commission over the years has built an image of credibility, integrity, honesty, and discipline, and I will not do anything untoward to erode such virtues. I've endeavored over the years to build an image of integrity, credibility, honesty, kindness, and discipline, and I will not do anything deliberately to diminish it. In fact, those who know me will attest to that. Although I acted in good faith, it seems my good intention and action have been misconstrued to mean I have bribed or influenced the electoral officers. That was not the case. I did not bribe anybody. As unfortunate as the incident is, I'd like to apologize to the Commission and the citizenry and assure all and sundry that such an act will never happen again. As unfortunate as the incident is, I would like to apologize to the Commission and the citizenry and assure all and sundry that such an act will never happen again. I will also gladly submit myself to any process to establish the truth of what transpired at the polling station on that day. Thank you, Kingsley Nyakun, MP, Kwadaso.
Look, just 30 seconds on this. If our brother wanted to...
You're muted.
Okay. Yeah, I hope you guys were attentive to the message here, the statement that was read by Randy Abbey. What do you make of that story?
I think it's just, you're caught and you want to make an excuse. I mean, in as much as we want to believe that the Electoral Commission is an independent body that is supposed to function within the realms of ethical conduct, we have seen in the time of the MPP that the Electoral Commission is increasingly becoming, an extension of the interest of the incumbent government. And so I do not buy that idea that, even if they said their lunch have not been delivered yet, you are not in the position to buy lunch for them, because this is an election where there are other, political interests as well. So you are not.
Is it that it has come out that the money was given at 10 a.m.?
So it's not even lunch.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't even lunchtime.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't even lunchtime. Even if it was lunchtime, I'm gonna benefit of the doubt. Your job is to go find whoever is the head of the Electoral Commission in that particular, police station. Say, oh, I came here to monitor things. Your people are saying that, they've not received lunch yet. Are they in arrangement? That is what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to take money out. That is outright corruption. And like I said in the beginning, these things exist, but they exist in, of course, like we're saying, in degrees and in proportions. But the MPP's grandiose and bold disposition and disregard for anybody in the country. It's baffling that how bold they are, to go around sharing 100 Ghana cedi for a member of parliament who is a colleague, who is a former lecturer of the University of Ghana, who should understand the law and how to conduct himself, go about publicly captured, removing a white envelope from his pocket and putting it on the table. Even you are trying to induce something within your favor, because you are not the only it's not just people from your party that are running in this race. There are other people too. So it is in bad taste. It is unacceptable, and I don't buy that apology. I do not buy the apology, because he's making up stories. You can't go around doing that. You are a lawmaker. You understand the law. And it's, again, these raise concerns ahead of the December elections. I'm just saying, it really does raise concerns, because the Electoral Commission is supposed to be an independent body. But like Barack Obama said during his tour in Africa, we lack independent and strong institutions. That is the problem, because even this casts a shadow on the ethics of even the people working within the EC as well. It casts a negative shadow on their codes of conduct. What is their codes of conduct? Are they supposed to be accepting money from people, politicians during an election period? Are they supposed to? So to me, this is just all around, it's bad. But the MPP just keeps proving to us that they have no respect for us as Ghanaians and as citizens and as electorate, and they'll go about doing what they want to do with no apologies. And for me, I do not accept that particular apology. It doesn't make sense. You are not in the position to buy lunch or breakfast. Your job, if you were there to monitor the polls, you were supposed to contact whoever is in charge and say, hey, your people said they've not eaten. What are the arrangements to make sure they eat? That would have been something I expected of him. Now, why do you even have money in envelope in your pocket in the first place? Like that intention. Oh, come on.
Yeah. Was this the case of a good Samaritan who has found himself in the wrong side of public opinion?
Anybody that believes that, I have an airport in Ghana called Kotoka International Airport. I want to sell it. That's I don't know who believes that story, but for me, I just feel this is actually a good example to use him as a scapegoat, right? We need to make examples, and a lot of people break the law. They are sorry for it, but they still pay, or there are some repercussions. So we need to make examples. He's actually admitted to the wrongdoing. So our authorities, if we were a serious country, would, the case is already made. You against the law, you have to face the punishment. But of course, it's Ghana. Uh, that impunity, they are breaking the law with no regard. They know there's not gonna be any repercussions, and it's like it's a free, nobody cares, and that's the order of the day. It's so sad. I hope he's being used for a scapegoat, but it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he went around the issue. I think when it happened, immediately he was interviewed by the Joy News guy who had captured him, as well as is a Kofi Adoma. And in that interview, he actually didn't admit that there was money in the envelope. So he kind of danced around the issue, but when it became clear that there was no way that he could, you know, get out of it, he had to admit that indeed he gave money out. Asked them that if they had eaten at 10 a.m., if they had had lunch at 10 a.m., and they said no. And so he decided to be a good Samaritan and have some prepackaged money in envelopes and dropped it on the table. I think lawyers always say you have to establish intent. And in this particular case, are we going to be able to establish intent, even if the Attorney General decides against our wildest imagination to prosecute it? But I mean, my opinion about all these things is that the moment we identify these issues, that is what Parliament should be about. Parliament is not for people to go congregate there for 4 years and take um, ex gratia after, but they have to constantly enact laws that would address some of these issues. I mean, at the founding of our country, the construction of the constitutions, every single issue couldn't have been thought about. So Parliament is supposed to be enacting policy and coming up with acts of Parliament that will address some of these issues. And so if we identify a problem and we feel that we don't have the systems or the laws in place, then we need to be proactive and go ahead and do that. Now, some people also complain that in Ghana we have a lot of laws, but it is the implementation or the enforcement that becomes a problem. Now, how do you actually even come up with a law when you don't have a way in which you would enforce the law? Because I think that a law is only useful when it can be practically enforced. And so in the process of actually coming up with a law, you should have alongside thought about how to enforce the law. If you don't think that way, then I mean, you really haven't passed the law. So again, when we talk about these things, they always talk about enforcement and all that stuff, but we really have to be able to address these issues. And I think part of it, and Zita, you talk about colonization or the colonial legacy a lot. And I think it's also one of our biggest problems because most of these laws were adopted wholesale without really any thought about their practicality. How are we going to operationalize these laws? But we put them in our books by virtue of the fact that in other known democracies, these laws exist. But how are they enforced in our context? And so maybe, yeah, there could be issues against people being corrupt in election or paying individuals. But how do you enforce that? How do you really, nip that in the bud?
Because the people who are supposed to enforce the law have a political side. We all need to be honest. When the electorates were talking, they said, oh, there was a policeman in front of one of the white van. So why is a policeman in front of the white van that is distributing money? You understand? The law works to an extent when it comes to the poor and the vulnerable. And that is unfair. And to be fair, this also happens in the context of America as well. We see rich people get away with it. There was a blonde lady that ended up murdering her boyfriend, a Nigerian guy, Obumseli, Christian Obumseli, and there were cases of the white lady being abusive, but nothing has happened. She was discharged. She said it was how do you call it? It was self-defense or whatever. And a few days later, she was captured in the public at a restaurant. It was a Black lady who saw her, videoed it, and put it on social media. That created a public outcry for her to be arrested later. And my point of referencing that is that it happens. But to a large extent in Africa or in Ghana, we realize that even the people who are supposed to be like Atamil said, may God rest his soul, who watches the watchman? Who is watching the people who are supposed to implement the law? The law enforcers are already bought. What is a policeman doing in front of a white van distributing 100 cedis to elected? So again, the whole system in Ghana, I'm sorry to say, but like we are saying, we just inherited a legacy, but we did not look at how to hybridize, if that's a word, how to, alter the laws we inherited to fit our culture, knowing the kind of people we are and how we operate for it to be operationalized and work. We've not been able to do that. So people act with impunity. And I'm sure there were servicemen, security people on the floor, but they don't care because they were supposed to pick him up and say, oh, boss, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to, drop anything. This is against the law. But guess what? A policeman is in front of a van distributing 100 cedis. So who is going to arrest who? It's so sad. It's so sad that we are in a country where the law only works when it comes to very vulnerable people and it punishes vulnerable people. And our political leaders walk around breaking the law and have no fear because there's no repercussions. And there's been, like Nee has been saying, nobody has been made a scapegoat for it to send a strong message that this will not be acceptable in Ghana.
Yeah, and this is a guy who is a professor. He was a professor actually at Legon before he became a politician. And I mean, people, these conversations have gone on where people have questioned his integrity, especially being the fact that he was an educator. We are supposed to instill certain values in our students, and that they would grow up to become meaningful members of the society. And then the individuals who are supposed to model the younger ones are the ones that are caught in this very act. And again, I usually say, it's about time we jettison that idea of assigning automatic value to certain individuals by virtue of the degrees or their credentials, and just treat them as human beings, right? Let's judge them by their character and behavior, because we can no longer trust that. Somebody who has gone through the nurturing of a PhD and the expectation is that he would nurture the next generation. I mean, it would have been a foregone conclusion that the person is supposed to come prepackaged with certain values. But no, they have demonstrated time again that that can no longer be the case. And so let's judge them by their character. And sometimes the unfortunate thing is that it might be too late. By the time they show their true colors, then it would have been far gone. But yes, but this individual has to be treated with the contempt that he deserves as an individual, and his academic credentials. And I mean, he's only doing damage to the academy, but I think maybe that's the way we should begin to think about these things.
As Baumia has also done been damage to the. I'm not lying. Those on social media know that I have been the topic of Ghana for the past 2 weeks. I have been a topic of discussion in Ghana. Apparently, I've even been discussed on national television in Ghana, and a lot of people are only upset not because I'm a woman, but because I have a PhD. And people in academia have consistently proven to be unreliable, to lack ethical conduct, such that even a woman like me who have done nothing wrong, I only said something that, oh, I have a PhD, and by default, I'm predisposed to a certain caliber of men. I have gotten so much hate in the past 2 weeks. If not for God, I need to be in a psych ward. People have sent me so much hate messages simply because, and people have tied my credentials to the current vice president of Ghana that, oh yeah, you people with PhD, you say all this and that, and you are not credible. And I don't know how come an innocent person like me who made an innocent submission on social media can become a national issue. Of course, they've been positive out of the movement where more young women are seeking to go back to school, currently called the Zeitarian movement in Ghana, named after me, where young women want to go back to school. But I've gotten so much hate because of, to a large extent, my colleagues Baumia's conduct, that PhD is just useless. We offer nothing. All we do is to throw our credentials around and expect people to bow at our feet. Yet when it comes to solving Ghana's problem, we have nothing to offer. So I do agree with you.
Yeah, some of the outrage is justified because
yes, yes, I agree with you. It's justified because some of these people who have these titles have not conducted themselves well, and so those of us who proudly have this title and we parade it as something we've worked out for, we bear the brunt of the dissent and the kind of animosity that some of our leaders have created, among. So I'm just saying that currently, if you're a PhD holder, please cease fire. Don't even put yourself in the Ghanaian space, because you will get it. They will come for you as they've come for me, and I'm just hoping this thing pipes down really soon. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Professor Kingsley Nyako. Out of line, unethical conduct, Bawumia, just a colossal failure, and they've made the credibility of PhD so cheap and no longer respected.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Any contribution in this light?
Well, I was gonna say when Zita was talking, I was like, people actually what they are thinking right now is true with regards to Baumia being telling us all that those lies and attributing it to everybody that's a PhD. Because the truth is, I got my PhD because I wanted to, add to the number of people who have a career background, who are professors. But also one of the reasons why I got a PhD is because of President Mills. I looked at him as, wow, this guy is so like clean. He's so class. There's the class. There's the and he's so demeanor. You look at him, you're like, yeah, I like this guy, and I realize that he has a PhD. Okay, actually, that's something I'm interested in. And now you have this Baumia, that guy who came in like, okay, I know everything. We've been giving you the chance. You said if the fundamentals are right, the exchange rate will explode you. Okay, I understand economics, so I agree with you. That is right. Now you're in power. You are trying to tell me, oh, by the way, that is not true. I'm like, is this guy really? Is he okay? Saying one lie to another. We shouldn't tax Momo because it will hurt the cashless economy, which I also agree. But hey, your government tax Momo. You didn't do anything about it. You didn't say anything about it. Apparently, you were some of the proponents of this policy. Now you are running for president. You are telling us, oh, by the way, vote for me. I'm gonna take Momo out. So yeah, I agree. People don't trust any of these credentials anymore, right? And it's like all these people we put so much faith that we expect them to know better and do better are the ones letting us down. So I agree. Right now we are all lost as a people. We don't know who to trust because, to be frank, I had a lot of faith in Baumia, and that guy has failed miserably. Not taking it for me. If I fail, I would like to take accountability, right? And the truth is, you take the accountability and you learn from it. But this guy has not done none of that, and I'm like, what are your values, right? Where are your values? Where does it end for? Is it just the power, right? Is that your only goal? And so for me, I understand why people, don't like PhDs these days. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta take responsibility. I mean, everybody is wrong.
Yeah.
Every now and then. So
you cannot always be right, right?
Yeah.
If the thing is not working, say it's not working. Yeah. But you're like, oh, there's doomsaw, there's no doomsaw. And president is saying doomsaw never happened. It only happened about mama. I'm like, what is going on with you people?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So, well, I guess we will have to move on. And as I had mentioned in the beginning of the show, we have recently seen a lot of about turns. People who were critical of Mahama all of a sudden have rendered apologies. I think Captain Smart on one of his shows apologized to Mahama, first of all, for not only criticizing him, but spreading falsehoods about him. And we've seen a lot of celebrities being called out. Some of them reluctantly eventually had to come around and change their position. Even MPP faithfuls, in the person of Hobson Adoye, recently has said that he's willing to come on national TV and apologize to JDM. Shatawale is equally in the mix. So I have a few videos here that I want us to play, and then we would get into that conversation. And there's one here of this guy called KOD.
From the time I was supporting the campaign in 2008, and then I remember I was for almost 8 years.
The plans we had for Believe in Ghana, which motivated me to support him, me to me and I can't 1 year, I'm on a term necessary. Those things can't happen in the year.
And so I didn't know on what chair say or person or Yama Ghana, and you to support him. 7 years, no,
so big dreams video now. it had like a lot of things put together in that soundtrack, and it was recorded intentionally because we knew that was the vision he had for this country.
So Creative Arts Council.
Yeah, that's okay. Creative Arts Council, they are not creative industry. Me who any musician or chroma noma or J copyright and BBA. You know, Creative Arts Council, but I don't think it's affected and has changed the lives of any creatives in this country. We're struggling, you know, financially. We're not able to project Ghanaian creatives as we ought to. And time you started believing Ghana and this money in 2008. We thought, sir, if there was going to be any major change in the creative industry, it was going to happen in this time. It's not happened. You know, the free SHS, very, very commendable. But the Nokra, you know, here home, feeding of the little ones is a problem. You know, school feeding cry a problem because
problems, yes. And as a negative effect of supporting Nanado in 2008, Radio Gold. Don't you think, sir, since I was supporting His Excellency President Mahama in the upcoming election, Ubenya problem with Nkofo MPP side?
On problem, then they say next week, say, my money school fees, but I'm going to mami and I said, day. Kweku, maybe 45 years. You know, our founding fathers on the continent, Kwame Nkrumah, they were young people. At the point, we had someone who was about 31 years, Jerry Rawlings, you know, taking the realms of affairs in this country and deciding how things worked and went in Ghana. At 45 years, you think I need someone's mind to decide what I do as a person? That's totally wrong. And if anyone feels that because they know means, you know, many or you're not for Kweku, the only thing we don't share is blood.
Yeah.
But we've never had a conversation say, joining me and I be. No. I mean, the only time is someone like Miriam John Dumelo didn't vote by Ayawaso into media free Domekwa so me by Ayawaso to support him.
Wow.
And one can't change Kofi for vote in Bra. It was my personal decision to support him.
You did that?
I did that in the last election. Yes. In the last election. You know, and we've decided, say, we're going to go all out and in that constituency campaign vigorously for him to win that seat as well as put all our resources behind President Mahama to win the next elections.
Wonderful. Awesome.
You're muted. Chairman, you're muted.
Okay. Yes. Anyway, so first of all, I think this issue can be looked at in two prongs. The first is, what is it that has happened that people have to really eat back or eat humble pie, piles of humble pie in this current administration based on how vocal they were when NDC was in power? And beyond that, what's the role of celebrities, you know, public figures in Ghana, and the way they meddle in politics? Is it something that they should be doing? You know, you can tackle this issue from whichever direction you wish, and I will start with you, Zita.
Yeah, succinctly, I mean, track record. That is the reason why they are eating their humbly eating their pie right now, or however you term it. That they're swallowing back. Yeah, swallowing back their words. It's the track record. It's the massive level of corruption. It's millions of dollars sitting in somebody's room when their children across Ghana studying under trees, when teachers do not have enough resources to teach, when children are dying in the Tema General Hospital because of what? Lack of generators to keep incubators functioning. It is the track record of the massive corruption and the gross disregard for us as citizens of Ghana, and the disrespect by the incumbent government, where a president will go to the Volta region when there is a crisis and he will say that, oh, you don't vote for me, I'm not supposed to be here. It is the gross disrespect. It is the consistent failure of the MPP that has made their own supporters swallow back their words. Now, in terms of your other question of celebrities being involved, I think that people look up to certain people. Yesterday, I was invited to a TikTok live, and the creator has almost 200,000 followers. I am close to 100,000 followers. And he said something that was so profound. He said, the Zetarians are here. I want you to tell them who to vote for. I might not think that my words carry a lot of weight, but in recent developments on social media, I have realized some people say that the only person who can advise me is Dr. Zita. Some people are apparently saying they are divorcing their husbands because of the content that I produce, and that is not even my intention. I am not, well, currently people are saying I'm a celebrity in Ghana. I don't know about that because I'm not in Ghana, but I'm just saying that celebrities carry a lot of weight. If you're quite popular, you might not know it, but your words carry a lot of weight. And so I think celebrities should really think on that and know how they talk and know how they move. But I respect KOD, and I respect all others who can have an objective perspective and say that, you know what, based on the campaign promises this person sold to me, I believed, like me have always said, who me have never had hit his support for Baumians. Like I was like so optimistic. This guy is an economist. I'm like, yeah, he can do something. But he's also openly talked about how disappointed he is. So I believe that celebrities do have a role to play in politics and political activism, but we need celebrities that can reflect, be objective, and be
But ideally, should they, do they have the full complement of information to be so opinionated the way they are, and given their level of influence, be able to determine the direction of the election somehow? I mean, we can't completely assign it to them, that, but given the level of influence that you are claiming that they have, do they really have the knowledge to sway people in one way or the other?
It's not about knowledge. Agana, if you've read anything, it's not about knowledge. You saw it in America. Cardi B. Have you listened to Cardi B's music?
And it's the same concern that I have, that
exactly
celebrities here as well is expressing opinions about politics and potentially influencing voters, but most of the time they do not even have the full complement of information to be having the opinions that, I mean, of course we can go on this general tangent that everyone has an opinion, but some opinions are more informed than others, and I'm not putting myself in a position of an informed position, but it's a conversation that has come up, especially in the context of the US, and we need to have that conversation as well in Ghana, right? Because I mean, people like Yvonne Nelson and co went on demonstrations and influenced voters with their opinions, and the question is, should they really be meddling in politics?
Well, but that's the thing. It's just like everybody meddles in politics. The only thing is that they are celebrities, they are known, and so their words carry weight. And so it's just not in America and in Ghana, even in how do you call it, in Nigeria. When they recently voted, we saw certain actresses who took the side of Tinubu, and people were like, there was bad blood between certain celebrities. And so it's just part of the political process globally that politicians will lean on celebrities to, because of what the kind of influence they have, and be it that their perspective is informed or not. Unfortunately, it's not the premise of the discussion, because you and I could be informed, but if we are not known, and we will appeal to a different audience. That's one thing I have realized. We will appeal to a different audience. You can be informed, you can share what you know based on information, and it will not get to a certain group of people. Certain group of people would be more drawn by celebrities compared to others. You and I might not, and so in America, they raised issue of Joe Biden sitting down with Cardi B, but Joe Biden understand the kind of social currency that Cardi B had a time, and a kind of influence that she had. Be it, is she informed? She might not be totally informed, but I think she, even in that interview, she did raise some valid points. And so we can't take it away from the celebrities that they are not speaking from a place of holistic information. my thing with the celebrity involvement is know your power, do not underestimate your power, and know how to use it well and hold yourself accountable. So I credit KOD for knowing his power and how to also change directions when he realizes that things are not going in the collective good of Ghana. And we also credit Shatawale for apologizing, and even Captain Smart for apologizing. And that is what we want to see. It is not where you stand, it's the ability to reflect and say, you know what, I supported this person did not deliver. For the love of Ghana, I think that I need to apologize to this other person that I demonized, and perhaps give that person a second chance.
Yeah, and back to Zita's point. I recognize that everybody should have the right to participate in politics and let their opinion be heard. But we also understand that celebrities have an outsized influence compared to the rest of us. And they equally have to be careful how they use that influence. But is that what we have seen? Sometimes are these celebrities just acting on the whim based on how they feel in the moment without really, because again, maybe we cannot really expect that much from them, but I think that with the level of influence, it has to come with a certain measure of circumspection and responsibility.
Again, I think what I do believe is that everybody should be engaged in politics, whether celebrities, common floor people like myself, like everybody need to engage in politics. And even if these celebrities decide to endorse somebody or whatever they do, they also, they also go in there with risk, right? Because you see all these celebrities who put their names on the line for this Akufo-Addo Bawumia. What they are doing is actually the right thing, right? you I mean, we've all made wrong decisions before, right? What we should worry about are those celebrities who presented with all the evidence still do not want to change their opinion. So, as Rita said, I really respect Captain Smart. I really respect what's this guy's name? The video we just played. I've forgotten his name.
KOD.
KOD. I really respect KOD. I really respect people when it's like I'm a statistician. You know what basic analysis is? When you get more information, update your prediction, right? So that's what they are doing. That's what every human should do, right? And to be frank, in Ghana we only have MPP NDC, right? It's going to go from here to here. We always talk about having trying to bring in the third party. When the third force or the third party do the right thing, Ghanaians will move to that angle. But for now, we have these two parties. So what we have to do is always fight them. We are not going to get a party come and do the job 100%, right? But when it's bad as it is right now, we have to tell them what you are doing is bad and move to the next person and try to build our country. Because trust me, that's all we have. I go to Ghana and I feel at home, right? That's all we have. So, of course, there are going to be corruption here and there, right? But at the end of the day, are we moving towards the right direction? If we are not, we change the government. We fight them and fight them and fight them until one day, if God blesses us with an intelligent president again, like Nkrumah, or somebody whose vision is like 30 years, 50 years beyond his time, maybe the country will grow or do better. But right now, we just have to trust these guys that they are going to do what they are saying they are going to do. If they are not doing that, we have to change. And that is the human behavior, right? We should be allowed to change our opinion. Those who we should be afraid of are those who, after doing the endorsement, these celebrities, after doing the endorsement, still don't want to change their opinion because of their selfish interests. Those are the ones we have to be worried about. But I want to end on this note that whatever is going on, one thing that I have come to respect President Mahama for is the ability that he gave the press the freedom and the room to do their job. We had demonstrations that were not impeded. Now, what this government is doing is emasculating the press. They don't have the freedom to be effective. If you say what they don't like, they might shut your station down or they might come at you at different angles. You apply for demonstrations, you are not given the right to demonstrate. This were all that we took for granted under Mahama. And I believe Mahama knows that that is a very important ingredient for our democracy, right? The fact that we need people to probe, we need journalists to probe and to make sure we are all on the right path. But now you hear journalists, people talking, and they are afraid, and they don't even want to say anything because they are afraid that the people may attack them, or you know, their stations will be taken off air and stuff like that. So I respect Mama for that, and I respect him for allowing people to be free and decide whatever they wanted to decide. And I hope Akufado, in his last 8 years, sorry, last we have like six more months to go. He tries to at least give us that before he leaves.
You want to add him 8 years?
No, no, no.
Okay. Well, yes, the tolerance of Mahama is something that has been established at this point. There's really no equivocation about that. And he demonstrated that in this next video that I'm going to play. Right. You know.
And your mama was on the flight. And Shatawale was also on the flight. And we were seated as if we planned it. Then Shatawale comes to me and said, "No more, I want you to do me a favor." I threw certain words at former President John Mahama, and I felt very guilty to go through him. I said, "No, he's a father." So I held his hands, and I went to President John Mahama with him, with Shatawale. I mean, this is no secret. Okay. It was on a plane, publicly. I've even got the video. I'll send the video then. Then he said, "Oh, I've forgiven you." Then so Shatawale went on his knees, and he started crying. I was so touched. Shatawale. Then he said, and that was the first time to have met Shatawale that he has not blown the thing on me. Normally, when I meet him, I feel the thing. But I said this time, he's not done it. And then I said, this is the spirit that I want our people to do. We all know how wild Shatawale is supposed to be. But he humbled himself to say, as president, I'm sorry I threw certain words at you the last time. But can you forgive me? And President, your mama said, "I forgive you." And they said, "Shatta, you're a bad boy. You brought a whole man of God to come and do this to me. What do you expect me to say?" This is the spirit that I expect us as a nation to go to. In fact, Shatawale won my respect. Yeah. I've got a video, man. Yeah. I will send it. And all of a sudden you realize that people, and then when we got to London, Shatawale sent a message to me thanking me for what I've done, and that he didn't know how to go about this for 4 or 5 years now. Wow. And this is the spirit I want us as young people to coquette. Whether it's John Mama or Nanado Dankwa or Kufuor, or sorry, I've not called them my title, but all of them, respect them. His excellencies, respect them. Respect. Let's put a value on our leaders. And if you make a mistake, go back and say sorry.
Because this nonsense must stop.
This nonsense must stop.
And you started a campaign.
Yes, we started it.
Okay. Yeah, there was an actual video of Shatawale. I thought it was part of this video, but there was an actual video of him, interacting with the former president and asking for forgiveness or whatever. But again, it demonstrates the tolerance of the individual that we are talking about here. And I think there has been a new release about about press freedom across the world, right? And Ghana is, I don't remember. I think it was ranked around 50th or something like that. I don't recall, but apparently the current government is celebrating because it's an improvement from the previous ranking that was done. Now, but even that improvement is still below what we were ranked in prior years. Talking about the period up till 2016. So that this government has been very tyrannical towards the press is something that it'll go down as one of the legacies of Nana Akufo-Addo. People like Manasseh and Co were run out of the country. They weren't given access to operate. Unlike in previous years, they had free access to government offices and space, and they could, unravel acts of, malfeasance. But now they don't even get the access. So if you are a journalist and you're interested in doing any good work of journalism, putting our politicians' feet to the fire, you not get the access. You're not going to get into the rooms where you can get information. Yeah. So, and again, this is not only limited to maybe the neutrals. Maybe we can characterize some of these celebrities as neutrals, people like Shatta Wale and KOD. In fact, KOD, I've seen videos of him in NDC activities. He's been in work. So I actually didn't even know that previously he had supported the NPP. I thought he has always been an NDC guy because I've only seen him recently, in some of the numerous walks, 24-hour economy walks and stuff like that. So I actually thought he was a dyed-in-the-wool NDC guy. I didn't know that he's a recent convert. But again, it demonstrates the maturity that some of them have displayed. But again, this is not only limited to neutrals, but let's listen to a one-time MPP bulldog, so to speak.
Mona muka kyerɛ sɛ ɔko corruption mona muka kyerɛ sɛ ɔyɛ incorruptible ana metie kono so bɛbɔ mumu bi because mona mu penti Akufo-Addo mɛyɛ tɔɔyɛ mona mu dress Akufo-Addo mɛyɛ tɔɔyɛ mona muka kyerɛ sɛ ɔko corruption mona muka kyerɛ sɛ ɔyɛ incorruptible ana metie owura Hopsi-Adoye na menya agidi sɛ Hopsi bu ne ho ne sɛ nti no mɛba kɔto Akufo-Addo ana yɛato Akufo-Addo no yɛwɔ saa ndwetwede mu yɛbɛbrɛ mu mo
Ajana make say. I thought that nipa oya de na hu sa de a oya ye no o aim no is not a year. I saw kasa. Me friend people mu na make say o. Yes obi a won share follow me.
Yeah.
Bibi corner say go ya me bomb margin straight. Then ade. And maybe I make catch up say o mo na nyame ase say me niska to Canada Japan level. From be bian every room has say. So on no. But ni nyina mu no, ne ebe bia na ebe timaye. So me na ka we mo sa go machi matum de dada.
Hokra na kame ba.
Omo yo omogalam say ma nye bi. Wada dubious operations ma nye bi. Nothing. Ye fomun sa say me nka ho. Bibia di ho no ma bi wo mu bi. Be say East Legon kra, nkwa kra no.
Wow.
Nkrofo be chi omo ogu mu ho no.
East
Legon sa say.
Omo aban mu.
Wo de nyambotre.
But they also saying say hey, if indeed say some year galam say I don't know baby different some year galam.
One day on television I will kneel down and say Mahama, I am sorry.
Are you serious?
I will say it.
You kneel down?
Oh yeah.
And tell
live on
President Mahama.
Yes.
Say you are sorry.
And someone make kafa no so I angel.
Are you serious?
Oh me na me gajo. Quote me anywhere.
Hopsi-Adoye na ka say na.
Me say quote me anywhere.
Say one day
Mahama was an angel.
One day you sit on national television.
Yeah.
And kneel down.
And say Mahama.
And tell John Mahama say I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
And then what we no
and someone ka fa no hu. Mahama ye kromfo, Mahama wi we ni ne ga. Hey. Sada Mahama angel. Hey. No I angel. I am telling you.
Wow.
I am telling you. Mahama. Oh, yes, Papa no kwa. As compared to today.
Yes, I understand the rationale.
Dabi.
Is it sour grapes or what?
You were muted, so we didn't hear you fully.
Yeah, so I'm saying like what we just heard from Hobson is that are those sour grapes? Is he disgruntled because he has fallen out with his party? Because this was a guy that was literally used as the attack dog of the MPP. When did he realize that they had committed all these obscenities? And when did he realize that Mahama was treated unfairly and deserves an apology from him?
I mean, it's politics. It's he's doing politics. That's what it simply means. He's just doing what we know to be politics. I mean, of course, some level of disgruntledness and of course also realization that the party has not delivered. Two things can be right at the same time. Of course, he could be disgruntled because he might not have had his way or whatever perceived position or favors he expected to get when his government came to power might not have come to fruition. However, it's also true that his former party has not lived up to expectations, and those have led to. And the thing about when you become an ex-member of a political party, anything you can do to kind of pepper them, like they say in Ghana, you're gonna do it. So he's saying that he would go down on his knees to apologize to former President Mahama. It's just a way to kind of rub pepper in the eyes of the members of the MPP. But I think two things can be right at the same time. We cannot disassociate people's personal interest from their a particular stand they take. People are not in politics simply because they love Ghana more than anybody. Self-interest first. So sometimes when people interests have not been achieved or fulfilled, they are able to go in opposition and begin to ruffle feathers for their former party. So I think two things are the same in this instance. I'm not looking at Hobson saying, oh, he's so objective, he's focused on Ghana first. No, people are in politics for personal interest. Even me sitting here, that people are beginning to whisper political ambitions in my head. Somebody was telling me life that they can see me as a future running mate and all that, and I should make a political stand. Even me, if I choose to ever enter politics, I'm not going in as much as I love Ghana first, it must also kind of align with your personal goals and your personal interest as well. So yeah, Hobson is just, sour grapes. I agree. It could be sour grapes, but sour grapes with pepper on it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes sour grapes or personal interest can serve the public interest. They can sometimes align, as you said.
A double-edged sword. I agree.
Yeah. Somebody is a clear case of my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Yeah, for me, based on the information we have right now, based on what the MPP is doing right now, based on the unseen levels of corruption we've seen under this government right now, I'll probably side with his opinion of this government is doing worse than what Mama did, and that's what is forcing him to speak out. Because yes, it could be that he's playing politics, but sometimes it says that the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. Yeah, so I feel he thinks he owes, and again, it's the whole idea of you have more information. The right thing to do is, what do you do with that information, right? And what we've seen, what they told us that Mahama has done, and Captain Smart said they told us Mahama had buildings and stuff in Dubai. He went to Dubai, nothing like that. So they painted this guy as a bad person. And what we are seeing is like unseen levels of that. But what I want to say that Mahama has lived the life of Professor Mills. But now I want Mahama, when he wins, he should come out swinging. He shouldn't do that nice man thing. He should come out swinging because we need him to be that way. We need him to prosecute these people. He has four years left. He has nothing to lose. He should come out swinging, prosecute these guys for all the bad deals and all the corruption they've done, so that at the end of the day, at least Ghana will be in a better place. And that's all I want to see.
Wow, absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, Hopeson, of course. I mean, I can see the bitterness. I think it all started when he was relieved of his position with the national security, right? Because he supported Alan Shermanton. So this is a political party that will eat its own children, pretty much, because even in internal competition, some people are so vicious that they can't tolerate you having an official role in government and supporting another member of the political party in his bid for the flag bearership. So, I mean, I think he has every right to be bitter, because he hitherto had done most of the dirty work for their party. And to be treated the way he was, I think he's now bringing out the truth, right? So some people can be serving their own interests, but in the process of doing so, they will reveal the truth. He may not, maybe he carries himself in a way that he may not lie, and so we get to hear what the truth is. And he said a lot in that video, and that could have been a whole subject on its own in terms of our discussion, but we were limited to the conversation around people making about turns and the reasons for doing so. I mean, as usual, we always have a lively conversation, and unfortunately, we have to draw the curtains here. I've been particularly slow this afternoon because I think I'm developing a cold. The weather is changing. We are in spring, but the weather is not consistent. You wake up in the morning and it's very cold, and then it warms up. And if you're not careful and cover yourself very well, you can expose yourself to cold. So I hope you all take good care of yourselves, and or if you have any closing words to say, you're welcome. Otherwise, I would say, as usual, we'll meet next week at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Ghana time. And we thank our viewers for being with us this afternoon.
I think it's 6 p.m. Ghana time, right?
6 p.m. Ghana time, okay. Yeah, we have that daylight saving thing that confuses me all the time. But anyways, so we thank Benjamin Wayo Mahama for, blasting our show on his platform. Our producer is not here with us today, but we still thank him. He did the groundwork before leaving. And I thank Zita, Nee, and all of our viewers, and we hope to see you again next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, see you.
Bye, guys.
See you next week.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
All right. Okay.
You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, matinayela pese. You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, muna kapela, chora kakisa, bayari yela pere. Balungana baire, tupa ani, imping tuna, masanta tapage, bayu tuvitele, masankele yura, baba tuvijara, bayari hela pere, bongana baire, tupa ani, asikul ketuna.